And welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. That is Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter. You can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice on an independent station searching for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force, force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you shouldn't have to force people to do it. Very excited to have on the line with me John Zoller. He is the executive producer of Exhibition Hub, a curator and distributor of world-renowned immersive exhibitions. He has honed his unique skills of production, visual art, and set design for more than 25 years while working in the museum, entertainment, retail, and attraction theme parks industries through his own immersive design firm, KRE8360. And he's done amazing different projects, including Titanic, which we're going to talk about, an immersive voyage, but Jurassic World, the exhibition, Bodies of the exhibition, and Star Trek, the exhibition. Anyway, some really great projects. And John Zoller, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kim. Glad to be on.
And so something big is happening in Denver tomorrow, and that is the opening of this exhibition, yes?
That's right. Titanic, an Immersive Voyage, is opening in Denver this week. It's the most incredible telling of the Titanic story that I've ever been a part of. And over those 25 years you mentioned, which makes me sound a lot like I've done a lot more than I think I have, I've always worked on Titanic exhibitions. And so a couple of years ago, I put together a big collection of Titanic artifacts and said, how can we take these artifacts and tell the story using all of that great digital technology that we've become so good at doing, and do it in a way that puts you in the story like never before. And I really think we've delivered on that in a very powerful and magical way.
So is this the only place that you're doing this exhibition, or are there other places throughout the country?
We actually have Titanic exhibitions in several parts of the world right now. So we're in Hamburg, Germany, and we're also in Atlanta, Georgia. We have another version of the show that's in Cincinnati and New Orleans, so we're definitely covering some ground.
How did Denver get so lucky to have this?
Well, Denver's a great market, and it's a place that really celebrates culture and history and the arts. And so we had great success with our Bubble Planet exhibition, which is a very different experience from Titanic, where it's more play-based and inspirational. And we said, let's come to Denver. And the interest so far has been really strong. The Titanic story is evergreen. It's one that we all see ourselves reflected in some way. And in this experience, you're gonna board the ship. You're gonna become a passenger. You're going to experience those final moments of Titanic above water, and then you're going to get to dive to the wreck site through the magic of virtual reality and see the wreck like never before.
Wow. And I was looking at the information that your publicist sent over, and I guess I had not really realized this, that they found the Titanic in 1985, and it was really by accident, yes?
So it was, it's a great story. Dr. Robert Ballard had for a long time wanted to find the wreck of the Titanic. He had an idea of where it was, but because of the depth, 2.5 miles beneath the surface of the ocean, the equipment didn't exist really to scan to those depths or to send any cameras down. So he went to the Navy, and he said, I've got this idea to find Titanic, but I need to develop this equipment. And they said, okay, we can do that for you, but you have to do something for us first. And that's go and locate 2 missing nuclear submarines before the Russians find them. This is, during the Cold War. And so they built the equipment for Ballard. He went out on this mission that was supposedly to find the Titanic, but it actually had a covert part to it, which was discovering these submarines. He was able to find those subs, and with a couple days left, redirect the ships. And lo and behold, on the last day of the mission, they discovered the wreck of the Titanic.
And it's very deep, as you said, 2.5 miles. It was over 12,000 feet, right?
Yep.
So I find that really fascinating. So, what are some of the images that he found that he saw there? And you can't dive that deep, right? It had to all be by cameras, or what?
So you can dive that deep in a submersible. It's typically a 1 foot thick titanium sphere that you go down in. But that wasn't the case for these first dives. These first dives were using surface sonar and scanning, and then deep water operational underwater autonomous vehicles that had cameras on them. So from that first discovery, there's an iconic shot of Titanic's bow we've seen around the world. We featured in our exhibit. It's the one that Ballard brought back that everybody said, wow, Titanic is still there. It still exists. It looks almost as beautiful as it did the day she set sail. And it just conjures up all this sense of exploration and adventure in the imagination of something so historic, something with such a great story around it, sitting there in that final resting place in the bottom of the ocean. And as I mentioned, in the virtual reality experience we have in Titanic and Immersive Voyage, you can't dive that deep, but using virtual reality, you're standing on an open ocean platform at the depth, revolving around the bow section of the ship, and it's truly a magical part of the exhibition.
Wow. This is absolutely fascinating. Now, where is the exhibit at here in Denver?
So it's at 3900 Elodie Street, which is where the Van Gogh exhibit was, where Bubble Planet was, and now Titanic and Immersive Voyage. It's very central in town, and if you go to expo-titanic.com, you can get all that information on how to get there and how to get tickets.
Okay, and that's expo-titanic.com.
That's right.
Now, how long will the exhibit be here, John?
We'll be here through the summer, and hopefully, with the support of the community, we'll be able to stay longer. It always, we know we've got a really amazing experience, and we've had such great turnout in Denver. So hopefully, we could stay through the holidays.
Well, it seems like that's a really interesting thing for people to do, always looking for things to do during the summer. And so that sounds like it would be a really great thing to do. And also
from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the ocean.
There you go. And so just tell me your creative journey. How did you end up doing this kind of work?
Well, I studied literature. I studied the classics. I studied set design. I always enjoyed putting on shows. But it was really my brothers that got me involved in this business. My brother Paul started his own production company when he was 16 years old in Cleveland, Ohio. And I worked with Paul on summers as a stagehand, and kind of caught the bug when you do all this work and then suddenly the lights turn on and there's a crowd there, or you walk through the experience at the end and you say, wow, this is an amazing way to tell a story. And as a storyteller, I just became so fascinated with it that I continued to pursue different types of theatrical work, different types of event work, and eventually got to the point where I was able to start working on the first exhibit I did, which was a Titanic exhibit that I did with my brother Tom. And we, from there, we just continued to make exhibits for, since that time, for over 25 years.
And why do you have the fascination with the Titanic?
Well, Titanic is the Greek tragedy of our modern era. So, in a great tragedy, there's always a lesson to be learned, no matter what age you are. There's always something in you that connects to part of the story. And I think that's why I'm so fascinated with it. And I think that's why people are so fascinated with it, is there's over 2,200 people on board the ship. They all have these stories. You have all of this series of events that led you to get to that point in the ocean where the ship on its maiden voyage, the largest ship ever built that was supposedly unsinkable, meets an iceberg in the middle of the night. It's a story that can't be made up. It's so unreal but it's also real. And wrapping your mind around all the different complexities of the story is something that continues to fascinate me and also the public. The thing is that the more I work on a Titanic exhibit, the more I become connected to another part of it. So I'm always learning different things about the ship every time I work on one of these experiences, and always trying to bring that new storytelling to the new experiences I create. And with Titanic and Immersive Voyage, we have really done that in a way where, using media, we place you on the bridge as the ice warnings are coming in. We place you in the crow's nest trying to spot the iceberg. We place you in the boiler room as the iceberg breaches the side of the ship and the water starts pouring in. You're walking the corridors of the ship as it's starting to go down. So we built the sets so they're angled, so you're actually going, it's like the ship is sinking. And then we put you in a lifeboat as you, in our immersive experience, as you sit in the water and you watch Titanic going down by the head, sending out her last wireless messages. You become a passenger on board the ship through this experience, and it's a story that continues to fascinate us. And with this new technology, we've been able to take it to a whole other level.
That's fascinating. How many people ended up perishing on the Titanic?
Over 1,500 people lost their lives that night in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic. It's an incredibly tragic story, and about 715 were rescued by the rescue ship Carpathia. They had made it into lifeboats and were waiting out the frigid, cold, pitch-black night, wondering what their fate would be. And in the early morning hours, they saw the Carpathia coming across the horizon, and they said it was the most beautiful sunrise they had ever seen, because they knew that there was going to be another one after that when they saw the ship, the Carpathia.
Wow, and I didn't realize there were these other companion ships or sister ships, the Olympic, the Britannic, and the Carpathia, and Californian. I didn't know about those.
So that's part of the magic of Titanic and Immersive Voyage, is we broaden the lens on the storytelling, so that we're not just talking about Titanic, but we're talking about her two sister ships, Olympic and Britannic, that were the exact same size, basically the exact same ship built in triplicate. Titanic, we know what happened to Titanic. Britannic, unfortunately, also sunk very, very early in its life. It was commissioned to be a hospital ship during World War I and struck a mine in the Aegean Sea and went down in the Aegean Sea. Olympic, good old Olympic, traveled the ocean for 34 years, going back and forth, traveling hundreds of thousands of miles, carrying millions of passengers, including troops during World War I. So there's a lot to the story there, but also Carpathia was a kind of a humble steamer that was more of a cruising ship. It was on its way to the Mediterranean, and it was operated by White Star Line, who owned Titanic. It was operated by Cunard Lines, which was White Star Line's main competitor. But at that moment, there was nothing to do with competition. It was about the power of humanity. And Captain Arthur Rostron, when he heard that call in the middle of the night, redirected his ship and sailed it as fast as he could, weaving through an ice field to get to the Titanic's location in order to rescue those passengers who had made it into the lifeboats.
Wow. Okay, John Zoller, we're talking with John Zoller. He is the executive producer of Exhibition Hub and curator and distributor of world-renowned immersive exhibitions. We're talking about this exhibit that's going to open tomorrow here in Denver at the Lighthouse Art Space, which is at 3900 Elati Street here in Denver. And you can get tickets by going to Titanic.com. We're going to continue the discussion, absolutely fascinating, All these discussions happen because of our sponsors, and for everything regarding mortgages, reach out to Lauren Levy.
High inflation and increasing property taxes are making it more challenging for seniors to make ends meet. If you're 62 or older, a reverse mortgage may be the solution for what's keeping you up at night. It is essential that you understand the process and work with a trusted professional. Mortgage expert Lauren Levy will help you craft solutions for your unique circumstances, whether a mortgage, a second mortgage, or a reverse mortgage. If you'd like to explore what a reverse mortgage can do for you, call Lauren Levy at 303-880-8881. That's 303-880-8881. Call now.
You'd like to get in touch with one of the sponsors of The Kim Monson Show, but you can't remember their phone contact or website information. Find a full list of advertising partners on Kim's website, kimmonson.com. That's Kim, MONSON.com.
It's late at night, you're winding down with your family, and then you hear something outside. Your heart races. What's your next move? At Franktown Firearms and Colorado CQB, we make sure you're not caught off guard. Our purpose-built, 360-degree defensive shoot house puts you in realistic home defense scenarios, so you can build the skills to protect what matters most. In our home defense series, you'll train with experienced military and law enforcement instructors to handle critical situations with confidence. Learn to assess threats at your front door, clear rooms safely, manage entry points, and make smart decisions under pressure, even in low light conditions. Because when it's real life, there's no time to second guess. And with Franktown Firearms located in one of Colorado's lowest tax districts, you'll save money while investing in your safety and your family's future. Be prepared, be confident. Learn more now at klzradio.com/Franktown.
And welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. That is Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter. You can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice on an independent station searching for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force versus freedom. Something's a good idea. You shouldn't have to force people to do it. And do check out the USMC Memorial Foundation's website and sign up for their great golf tournament, which will be on May 15th. And that website is usmcmemorialfoundation.org. And then also the website for the Center for American Values located down in Pueblo is americanvaluescenter.org as well. They'll be having a great On Values presentation at the end of May. I'm talking with John Zoller. He's the executive producer of Exhibition Hub, which is a curator and distributor of world-renowned immersive exhibitions. We're talking about this exhibition that's going to open tomorrow here in Denver, and you can get more information and tickets by going to expo-titanic.com, and this is regarding the Titanic. And John, this is really fascinating, and how creative you are is I just love it. But I wanted to know, what was some of the most striking images that were captured by Ballard when he discovered the Titanic back in 1985?
Well, really, that there's a photo of the bow of Titanic, and it's covered in what are called rusticles, which is iron ore eating bacteria that are slowly consuming the ship. But it comes down in this cascading way, almost like stalactites in a cave, and it's in this incredible spotlit blue light with all the black of the ocean around it. And what was so striking about that picture is that Titanic had started to fade a little bit from the common consciousness. And, people sort of started to forget about the story or think about the story as almost more in the sense of lore. And when that image came back of the bow of the ship on the ocean floor with all the sand around her, it almost looked like she was still sailing, like she was still moving forward. And it brought us back to say, wow, this story really happened. The ship is still there, a silent witness to that incredible night, April 14th, 1912. And now with all of the Titanic survivors having passed away, she's the final witness, still there in the ocean floor.
Well, and there's this amazing Denver connection with Molly Brown. So talk a little bit about that.
So Molly Brown, in many ways, is the Titanic story. She was a go-getter. She was born in Missouri, moved to Leadville, Colorado, was working there, and met a fellow named J.J. Brown, who was an up-and-coming miner, very ambitious. He had an idea that the silver mines in Leadville had gold in them, and came up with a way to extract that gold from those mines, and came into incredible wealth. So now Molly Brown has this great wealth. She's got this incredible personality. She was always somebody who championed the rights of those less privileged. She was always working to help those who had less. She was a huge advocate for women's rights as well. And she was furthering her causes, but she was also enjoying the luxuries that came with this great windfall from JJ's success. She was traveling through Europe and boarded Titanic at Cherbourg. A lot of wealthy passengers boarded Titanic at Cherbourg, changed their actual itineraries to be on this very celebrated ship, the largest ship ever built on her maiden voyage. And Molly was enjoying life at sea until that night, April 14th, 1912, when she was able to get into a lifeboat and keep up the spirits of all of those on board that lifeboat throughout the night. She was directing people to row, to stay warm. She even wanted to go back and rescue some of those folks in the water, but she was overruled because, and this is the case with every lifeboat, the lifeboats didn't go back into the area where those who were still alive were in the water, because everybody was terrified that people were going to swamp the boats and they were going to go over too. So that was really tragic for her. She connected with those folks and was rescued, was on the Carpathia, and by the time Carpathia got back to New York, she had started a fund for the victims, for the families of the victims who lost their lives, who were less fortunate. And by the time that they got back to New York, she'd already raised $10,000, which was a huge sum at that time. And that fund continued to grow and continued to support the families of the victims. She also was instrumental in celebrating and championing Captain Arthur Rostron, who we wouldn't necessarily know as much about if it hadn't been for her. She wanted to make it clear that his heroism was the reason she still was alive. And she then used that platform of being now the unsinkable Molly Brown to further all of her causes, including women's rights and raising the awareness to support and provide for those less privileged. She had an incredible life story, and she lived in Denver. She actually made a huge contribution to the building of the Sacred Heart Basilica in Denver. And her house is still in Denver, and it's an incredible museum. It's a wonderful place to visit. We actually are featuring some artifacts from the Molly Brown House collection in Titanic and Immersive Voyage, and we'll have a partnership with the Molly Brown House where you can get a discount to our experience if you visit the Molly Brown House. And we're really thrilled to have that connection, to be able to celebrate it in such a big way in Denver.
Oh, that's really, and I remember the film, The Unsinkable Molly Brown. It was made in 1964 with Debbie Reynolds. It's a great classic, and recommend that people check that out as well, because it's quite a story. Regarding the captain, tell me a little bit more about him.
About Captain Arthur Rostron?
Yeah.
So Captain Arthur Rostron was, he's a very special guy. You mentioned earlier the Californian. So the Californian was a ship that was only 20 miles away from the Titanic. Unfortunately, the radio operator had turned off the wireless radio at 11 o'clock, and Titanic struck its iceberg at 11:40. The Californian was sitting there. Titanic was launching its rockets as distress signals, and they watched these rockets going off, and they said, there's a Titanic. They must be having a party on board. Meanwhile, over 40 miles away, the wireless operator on Carpathia, who was just about to turn in, receives this distress message and immediately notifies the captain. And without even thinking twice about it, he turned off all the hot water on the ship. He turned off all the heat on the ship, redirected all the steam to the boilers, and started heading for Titanic. And as we mentioned, he was weaving through an ice field to get there, the same ice field that had the iceberg that sank Titanic, and made it there within 2 hours after the ship sank, just as the sun was coming up. And later when he was asked, how did you get through that night? How did you make it through that ice field? He's a very religious man. And he said, someone other than me had their hand on the wheel that night. And he was someone who very rarely spoke about the Titanic tragedy. He did his duty, and he was able to save those 750 passengers who were in those lifeboats.
Wow. John Zoller, I am just thrilled that we got connected for you to share this. We've got about a minute left. I'm talking with John Zoller. He's the executive producer of this Titanic Expo, and you can get tickets by going to expo-titanic.com, and this is down at the Lighthouse Art Space in Denver, 3900 Elati Street. Your final thought, and I'm so it's so great that you're sharing your creativity with Denver.
Well, thank you so much. And, I think that the Titanic story is one that appeals to all ages. There's a saying by an Irish writer, we are all passengers on the Titanic. And that is really true. There's something in each of us that's reflected in that ship. And I'm thrilled to share this with Denver and for everybody in Colorado to come and experience the Titanic story in a whole new way. We all know a little bit about it. This is an opportunity to take that knowledge and that experience to the next level.
Well, John Zoller, thank you so much. And again, you can get tickets by going to expo-titanic.com. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Kim. I really appreciate it.
And yes, and our quote for the end of the show is from Napoleon. He said, "Impossible is the word found only in a fool's dictionary. Wise people create opportunities for themselves and make everything possible." So my friends, today be grateful, read great books, think good thoughts, listen to beautiful music, communicate and listen well, live honestly and authentically, strive for high ideals, and like Superman, stand for truth, justice, and the American way. My friends, you are not alone. God bless you. God bless America. Stay tuned for hour number 2.
But tell them if I don't survive.
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker, commentators, hosts, their guests, and callers. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Crawford Broadcasting or KLZ management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.